After more than 3 decades as both a constable and as the province's top cop, Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Chris Lewis is stepping down. And joining us now to reflect on a life in law enforcement, we welcome the outgoing OPP Commissioner Chris Lewis. Welcome back to TVO.
Thanks, Steve.
It's nice to see you again.
Pleasure to be here.
36 years on the force, and it all comes down.
12.
You were 12 when it started.
12, yeah.
It all ends tomorrow. Why are you retiring now?
You know, not because I have to. I was reappointed, of course, last summer by the Premier for 3 additional years, but I knew then that I wanted to go sometime this winter. I'm healthy, things are going well, made a lot of positive change. I just feel it's my time. And very capable replacements were in the wings, ready to take over. And so I thought, you know, I'm going to move on and try some other things in life.
Let's go back almost 4 decades. Why did you want to be a cop in the first place?
You know, I'm a child of 70s television, and as a kid, watching Starsky and Hutch. And
Come on, are you serious?
I'm not kidding. That kind of interested me. It looked exciting. I really didn't have any idea what policing would bring. I just wanted to be a police officer. And I applied to several different departments. I was a northern boy. OPP called first. They thought they had a hot one, and I stayed in the north initially.
Did you ever drive one of those red tomatoes like Starsky and Hutch used to drive?
I had a green one like that, though. I really did, a Gran Torino. Yeah.
You grew up in the Sioux?
I'm the Sioux boy, yes.
Okay, and started out as a beat cop in Northern Ontario, as you just pointed out. Worked your way up to commissioner. Did you, at the beginning, know that you wanted to end up where you are now?
You know what? I wanted to be a detective. I really had no idea what laid ahead. I didn't even understand the rank structure when I joined. I had no idea what the specialty positions could be if one so wanted. I just joined, went to Kapuskasing to be a constable and hopefully be a detective someday.
And it just sort of took care of itself as you went along?
Yeah, suddenly I was in the right place at the right time on many occasions. I worked hard. I was always true to myself and did my best, and things fell into place. But it wasn't something, even until I was deputy, that I really aspired to be.
I think people get what a cop does, and even what a detective does. But the head commissioner for the Ontario Provincial Police, I'm not sure everybody knows what that job entails. So why don't you tell us?
Well, I'll tell you, most of it deals with people. I'm dealing with boards and councils and provincial government, federal government on certain issues, our people all over Ontario, the people that we police with across the province, whether it be special interest groups, community members and the like. Mostly I sign things. I hear business cases, approve things, and really it's all about dealing with people at all different levels.
So the one thing I don't hear, the one word I don't hear you use there is policing.
No.
You don't do any policing anymore?
Absolutely nothing. I live my life vicariously through emails on my BlackBerry. I find out our people have made an arrest, saved a life, found a lost kid, and I get my joy out of reading that and knowing our people are doing it.
So once you became the commissioner, the top job in the OPP, you stopped policing?
I did. Totally.
Because, you know, you hear these stories about Julian Fantino, even when he was top cop, pulling people over for speeding and that kind of thing.
I have done that.
Okay.
Yes, I have, on occasion, but it's not something I have time to do regularly. If I saw something ungodly occurring, I would stop, of course, and have, but that's not, I have other things to do.
It sounds, though, that your job is more like a politician than it is like a police officer now. Is that fair to say?
In many respects, it is. Now the approvals, I have to prove, you know, multi-million-dollar purchases and hiring of people and things like that, which most politicians don't necessarily do. There's arms of government that do that. Mm-hmm. You know, and I have to make decisions that impact on people's lives. But I don't actually go and do police work. And
how much actual contact do you have with the minister who is in charge of your area?
Probably at least once a month. I'm at a meeting or a briefing with our minister.
And what do you talk about?
We're seeking funding for this or briefing her on something that's ongoing. She doesn't really approve things. I mean, she's a wonderful minister, and we've been very lucky. All parties have produced very wonderful ministers.
Madeleine Mayer.
Madeleine Mayer, yeah. She's a great lady, very, very compassionate. In fact, I sat in Elliott Lake after the mall collapsed with her as she held the hand of the mother of one of the females that was killed and cried her eyes out. And I've seen a lot of things out of a lot of ministers over the years, but that was the first time I saw that. A very compassionate lady. But she, you know, we brief her on programs, directions we want to go, and she really doesn't have approval authority in terms of how we do our business or what we do. We certainly want to keep her in the loop. We want to keep her in our corner in terms of supporting if we need special things from government or support in some way.
But is this more a thing where she tells you what she wants or you tell her what you want?
We generally tell her what we want. She's never told us what she wants. She certainly has expressed certain concerned about certain issues. She's very compassionate about child exploitation on the internet and some of those things. Wondered what is it we do. So we explain to her what we do.
Well, whenever you have a big job like this invariably happens where you get called up on the carpet on something because something's hit the fan. Can you give us for instance, when that happened in your career?
Not as commissioner, because really I report to a deputy minister, who really only controls our budget and our human resources, our complement basically of bodies. Operationally, really by law, they can't direct me in how to do things. So I've never been called up on the carpet for anything. I've certainly been called up on the carpet over the years for the mistakes I've made in investigations and complaints the public made against me when I was a constable and that sort of stuff, but never at a high level.
Anything that make you want to quit?
Well, I had my times over the years that I wanted to quit. I worked for certain leaders at different points in my career that I didn't get along with, and certainly my morale went downhill. And at one point I lost a brother years ago, and I thought my parents needed me in Sault Ste. Marie, and I almost quit then to go and be a member of the Sault Police Department. And the chief of the day there talked me out of it. Said, don't ever make a decision like this when you're going through a tough time in your personal life. And just I was being transferred then too, which is another factor. He said, take your transfer and be honest with yourself and come back and see me if you really aren't happy. And I never went back and saw him again.
In all your years on the force, how many times did you fire your revolver?
In an operation, not once. Just training.
Training.
I never shot anybody, and I was on our tactical team for a number of years. I was there when people were shot. I was shot at, but I never ever fired my revolver once.
Is that typical?
Oh yeah, it is.
Most guys never pull the gun out.
Most guys don't. I think years ago they didn't pull their gun out, many in their whole career. I think in this day and age there's been probably a little more heightened personal safety awareness and some other violent things have happened in society that probably more so officers have pulled their guns, but not very many have ever fired.
Because we started this talking about Starsky and Hutch, and of course they pulled their guns out.
Oh, every show they shot a few people.
Every show they got shot at and did the shooting. And I wonder, once you realize what the reality of policing is, which is you tend not to pull the revolver out of the holster. Any disappointment about that?
No, not at all. In fact, I got so sick of shooting my gun in training when I was a member of the tactical team, I sold every gun I had, didn't even want to own guns anymore. I certainly have mine, and I'll wear it when I'm in uniform, and in fact, I've had it on in this show.
Yes, you have.
But not firing it is a good thing. Yeah. And one thing that I guess a misunderstanding by the general public, because of TV, is they expect that cops are always in these dangerous situations. They're not. They are at times. And that they want that kind of action. You quickly realize when you're in the job, you don't want that kind of action. You'd prefer to never have to make an arrest. That means no one ever broke the law. Nobody was ever victimized. You prefer to prevent crime by doing what you do as opposed to coming across the crime in progress. It's a whole different mindset. It just takes a little bit of maturity to get to that point and realize what it's all about.
This may get to the next question, which is, over the course of that 3.5 decades that you've been in policing, what are the biggest changes that you've seen in the way that it's been done?
Technology, for sure. When I first started, you had a ticket book, you had a notebook, and you had a flashlight. And really, that was it.
And a gun.
And a gun, yeah. But in terms of recording events and all of that, you had a pen and a piece of paper. Of course, the in-car computers, the roadside breath tests, and on, to the point where we've got cameras here and we've got cameras there, and the whole use of the internet and how that challenged us in many ways, but gave us solutions on how to do police work in many ways as well. That's probably been the biggest change, but there's been a ton of changes.
When everybody's got a cell phone, how much more difficult does that make the frontline cop's job?
In some respects, it makes it easier, and because people report things quicker. You can be there quicker, you can save lives quicker, and everybody's got a camera, so people are taking pictures for you all the time. Sometimes it's something you'd rather not see, but that's life, we'll deal with that in terms of our own behavior or our officers' behavior at times. So it's really helped us, but it's caused maybe 1,000 calls to go into our comm center over a small collision on Highway 400, and we used to maybe get one when the guy eventually got to a payphone. And now you get thousands of them. So sorting out where is it, which one is it the same call over and over again, and dispatching officers here and there to find out it's one and nobody's hurt. Some of those are challenges. The ability to communicate really is a benefit more than it is in my view, more than it is a challenge.
Okay, but that's your view as the commissioner of the OPP. Do you think the frontline man or woman on the force feels a little, not to mix my metaphors here, but a little under the gun today because these cameras are everywhere?
They are, but I mean, they for the most part, they're filming and taking photographs of officers doing the right thing. So there's some protection in that. When someone says they did X or Y and they didn't, and someone's got a video clip of it, that's a good thing. And they should be professional, and they should be doing their job properly. And if someone gets a picture of something that maybe is evidentiary that will help us solve a case or prevent someone from being victimized, then that's a good thing too. So, you take the good with the bad, and I think there's more good around that than there is bad, and I think even our frontline would agree.
There is, I think it's fair to say, less respect among the public for politicians, journalists, car salesmen, I mean, you name it. There's a less respect for everybody out there. Police officers too, do you think?
And to some degree. I think when something goes bad, it taints the whole police community. And that could be in LA, could be in New York City. But everyone just associates it with policing. If someone goes bad in the OPP, Toronto police will get accused, oh, you're one of those guys that did it, whatever.
People don't make the distinction among
Not
the forces.
often. And then sometimes, we've got 9,000 people in total in the OPP. At some point, one of those people is going to do the wrong thing. And how that's handled in the media and whatnot from there may taint the view of some people, and it may reduce their confidence in the police. And that's sad, but it's something we have to deal with. So we always have to be trying to do the best we can and do many, many good things, knowing that the odd bad thing will happen.
We've actually had you on this program before talking about the stress-related injuries and accidents and illnesses that frontline officers have to deal with. Do the police do a better job or a worse job today acknowledging the stresses that come with the job and how to treat them?
We do a way better job than we did.
You're sure about that?
I'm very sure about that. I mean, the Ombudsman report really opened my eyes. I knew we were doing a lot of great things, and I didn't think we had that many people hurting. I found out there was lots of things we still weren't doing, and we had way more people hurting than I ever imagined. And the biggest thing that came out of that was the fact that it really opened my eyes, and many of our senior people, to the fact that many people, whether they be supervisors, managers, or frontline officers, still had this attitude, suck it up. You're a police officer, get back out on the road. So you shot somebody, so you saw a dead child at a collision scene, and we're human beings. And so that suck it up attitude has to go. And people can't be afraid to come forward out of fear that a peer or a supervisor will think less of them or find them to be weak. Otherwise, no one will seek the help they need. And then when they do, we have to encourage them to, we have to have the help there. And we've made a lot of changes since you and I last spoke about that issue.
Suck it up, though, there's still some of that in the force, isn't
Some of it will be there still.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to beat it out of the organization, and all police leaders are, but some of it is still there.
What does the OPP do about the perception that there are, for example, two different standards of policing and of justice? And I take, for example, I mean, you can pluck any number of different incidents out of the headlines, but Caledonia, for example, where there's a judge's injunction saying you've got to get those Indigenous Canadians out of there, and the police have to make a judgment about whether they want to have a riot or whether they want to enforce a judge's order or not.
That's
and
right.
so they didn't.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the public perception that you're letting people get away with stuff there?
All you can do is really tell your story as best you can and be honest. I went to YouTube on some of those blockades even to put a message out. It was a message I recorded for our own people. And one of our deputy commissioners said, let's get this out to the public. Let them know what you're saying to our people so they hear it's a consistent message. And we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. And we have to respect a judge's order, but we don't have to do it in a way that we're going to hurt people or get people hurt. So we need to prepare properly. And had we enacted the judge's order quicker in some of those cases, we'd still have highways dug up in this province and maybe across Canada. So we don't want to shy away from trying to do what's right, but at the same time, we're not going to take a silly chance to get somebody hurt or killed when we know maybe in a couple of hours, because of the way the conversation's going, it'll be over. So why rush in now? Oh, we've got a piece of paper, got to take action. That didn't work for us in Ipperwash. We didn't have a judge's order, but we made the decision to march our officers down the road, and the life was lost, and a whole pile of lives changed forever. So we don't want to do that again, so we have to find the balance. When's the right time? How's the conversation going? Try our best to avoid violence.
In our last minute here, I want to ask about you.
Yeah.
Every day for the last 36 years, you've woken up in the morning thinking about policing. Starting tomorrow, you're not going to have to anymore. What are you going to think about now?
I'm going to think about me a little more. Sounds selfish, and I don't mean it to be, but I've spent 36 years and many times 70-hour weeks and lots of weekends away and working, and I want to look after myself. I want to, do some of the things that I want to do when I want to do it. I'm certainly have a couple irons in the fire on a part-time basis with different companies, and I don't want any more than that. I'll always be the commissioner in my heart. I'll always love and be proud of being a police officer, being a member of the OPP, which I think is second to none. And I'll always be rooting for those folks. But there's a younger generation moving up that need to take over, and they'll do so very capably.
Athletes, professional athletes, when they retire, always talk about how much they miss the feeling in the room, you know, the dressing room, the camaraderie and all that. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I'll miss our people. I'll miss the vast majority of our people. Wonderful people doing a wonderful job out there day in and day out. And I'll miss being a part of that. I'll do what I can to support them behind the scenes. No, I'm not running for politics. Doesn't interest me, and all due respect to those that it does interest. But I'm going to do some things for me and enjoy life a little more.
What won't you miss?
I won't miss some of the political issues, you know, around budgets and fighting for money and you know, constant criticism by some folks in the media. No, that's not the media's fault. They're reporting on what they're told, but you know, the fact that our prices are out of control and nobody can afford us, and we know we're one of the cheapest options out there. Or that one officer did something, so they're all doing it. You know, that sort of stuff gets tiring. You try to take the high road and not fall into those traps and end up in the he said, she said thing. But at the same time, sometimes it's a little discouraging. And then the next minute, some wonderful thing happens that encourages you all the heck, and you forget about some of those little things. But I won't miss the negative side of that.
What's the pin that you're wearing? This
pin is called the Order of Merit of the Police Force. I received it from the Governor General. It's called the Commander of the Order of Merit. There's 3 different levels within the order, and I was nominated, and a committee approved me, and I was given this last year.
You have all 3 levels?
I do have all 3 levels, yeah.
How many people in Canada have all 3 levels?
I'm the only one that has all 3 levels at this point.
So you must have done something right over the years.
Yeah, I wish I could say it was for running in a house and saving a life. It's not. It's just but for working hard. A lot of my success, to use that word, and I'm reluctant to, has really been around relationships. My relationships with our people, my relationships with other agencies, my relationship with the media. Really trying to do the right things for the communities we serve is what my job should be. And I've tried to do it the best I can, and someone felt I deserved some recognition, and that's great. I didn't do it for that reason, but that's what I'm about.
Well, we've always appreciated your visits to this studio to tell us more about what you do. Chris Lewis, all the best with whatever comes next, and thanks for being with us at TVO tonight.
Stephen. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.